Hey, what's up everyone, my name is Alpha and today we're back with a Pokemon challenge video. Today we're on Pokemon Omega Ruby and today's challenge be can I beat Pokemon Omega Ruby Hardcore Nuzlocke using only shiny DexNav encounters. Now, I've taken a little bit of time to actually realize how difficult it is to shiny hunt in this, and as well to even modify my online 3DS version of my Pokemon Omega Ruby, and it was very difficult to get it working. I had to unlock the entire DexNav and even the special encounter, so it took a little bit, but finally found out how it works. I also had to adjust the odds, obviously, for the shiny Pokemon. It was quite difficult. I was not having a lot of fun. I'll tell you when I really struggled and realized that it is a daunting task. But anyways, let's get into the rules real quick. So I can only catch one Pokemon per route, and I can only catch one Pokemon after a badge has been completed. So I can't go around catching a bunch of Pokemon from different routes. I can only catch one Pokemon after every single badge. Of course, I'm gonna get a Pokemon to begin with before I have any badges, but you know what, it's just to make it more difficult so I don't have infinite Pokemon. I only have really 9 different encounters, and if I run out, I run out. And on top of that, each of my Pokemon will only have 1 life, so if they ever faint, that is a lot of time wasted. And as well, I have to play on set mode. There's a level cap. The level cap is going to be the highest level of each gym leader's Pokemon. And also, I can't use items inside a battle. I can use hell items, but I can't use bag items. Anyways, one additional rule to this, each of my Pokemon will be nicknamed after you guys in the comments. So thank you so much for leaving a nickname in my previous challenge video. If you guys want to be nicknamed after a future Pokemon, just drop in the comments and hopefully I'll pick yours. While you guys are down there, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. It means a lot to me. Anyways, let's get into the Pokemon challenge video itself. I don't know why I said Pokemon challenge video instead of the video. But anyways, to start off with, I'm going to choose a starter Pokemon. Luckily, we don't have to look for a starter Pokemon in this run, but I'm going to choose a starter Pokemon that's pretty cute and assuming it's going to make it more difficult for a run. So this is me right now, just trying out the DexNav, trying to see if my controller works, and finally it works out. Now I can't actually get any rustling Pokemon, so I decided to go out into my first route over here and decided, you know what, I'm gonna pick out my starter Pokemon. I'm gonna pick out Zorua. Now going forwards, my first Pokemon in each route will actually be determined by whatever pops up in the DexNav will be the first Pokemon I search out. You guys will see what I mean later on, but our first Pokemon is gonna be Zorua, and it's been a little bit. I'm not too good at DexNav hunting, as you can see. There is chaining, and I'm not too good at that. You can't run too close to them or they will disappear. You can't walk at all. If you encounter a different Pokemon, the chain will break, and if I wait too long, the chain will break anyways. I gotta be very careful. That's why I'm using a Mudkip level 100, because I'm only able to knock out the Pokemon or catch the Pokemon to increase my chaining. So that's how I'm going out and chaining these DexNav encounters, and eventually we find ourselves a shiny Zorua, which is pretty cute. I love the blue on it, and it's actually a cool Pokemon to have because I don't think I've ever used a Zorua, especially from the beginning of the game. Since we have no more encounters to go, we start using a Zorua, and Zorua actually is pretty good. It has Dark Pulse. You know, it's not good against Dark type Pokemon, as you can see, but it's pretty good overall. Very strong with Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse is like an 80 power move at the start of the game. From there, we're going to face off against Roxanne next. Roxanne is going to be the first gym leader in the game, and also the Rock type gym leader. We're going to start the battle off against her using my Zorua. And Zorua, I'm looking for a flinch so it doesn't use a rock tomb against me. It doesn't get a flinch, it uses a tackle, so everything works out amazingly as we're able to knock out the Geodude in 2 turns, and then her next Pokemon will be a Nose Pass. I'm able to get a Dark Pulse on it as it's getting rock to me, and I'm able to outspeed it. So we're able to Dark Pulse once again and knock her out. Just realizing if she did rock to me earlier, I might have lost this battle, but we didn't. We're able to beat Roxanne and get the first gym badge in the game. Now moving on, we're going to go into this route right after Rustboro City, and we're going to get our first encounter in here. Our first encounter is going to be a random encounter completely, and our first Pokemon is going to be a Pidove. So that's interesting. So Pidove is going to be our first Pokemon. It actually works out for me because the next gym is going to be a fighting gym. So thinking back to it, it actually works out pretty well for us. Pidove, very interesting regional bird Pokemon that not a lot of people like. Me included. I'm not a big fan of Pidove, and oh, this youngster Joey is gonna catch a random stray as he has to fight my Mudkip accidentally. From there, we're gonna find ourselves a shiny Pidove, and it's not that different, not that great of a shiny, but we're gonna add it to our team, and it doesn't have a flying move to start off with. Eventually, it's gonna learn Air Cutter. That's gonna be great for it once it does, but it takes a little bit to actually learn Air Cutter. And from there, we can move out into the next gym in the game. We can face up against Brawly next. Brawly is going to be the fighting gym leader. We're going to start the battle off against him using my, obviously, Pidove. Pidove's able to Air Cutter well, once against the Machop and then twice against the Makuhita to knock him out, and we end up beating down Brawly pretty easily. From there, we can move out. Since we beat the next gym, we can move out into our next encounter right after Slateport City. From here, we find ourselves a Trubbish. So that's how you guys know I'm not re-rolling the encounters, because there's Trubbish and P-Dove. So we're going to start chaining those two Pokemon. I spent a long time going back and forth. Could not get an encounter going through the cycling road portion over here. So I had to actually reset the route each time until I find myself a shiny Trubbish by chaining. And then we're able to capture it, add it to my team. You know, Mudkip is just my default using for DexNav chaining, because I obviously don't want my Pokemon to be over level. So we're gonna capture ourselves a Trubbish, add it to our team, and it's definitely a Trubbish. It's definitely a Pokemon. It's not that great of a Pokemon, I'm not gonna lie. From there, we're gonna face off against May, and this battle was going pretty well, as you see. We even beat her starter, and then her Whalmer came out, and then it Whirlpooled me, and I'm like, oh, I'm trapped here at 6 HP. It's okay, I have Roost. I can just Roost it off. I'll get free from the Whirlpool. I should be fine. I do, you know, I recover more HP. It's gonna roll out, randomly roll out. So if I keep roosting up, it's gonna roll out too much and it's gonna knock me out regardless. And if I don't roost up, it's gonna knock me out with rollout. So I was hoping a Night Slash would knock her out, or she missed the rollout. Both things did not happen, as my poor P-Dove goes down already. I was kind of excited to use it on the Pheasant. I set on my Zoro, and next Zoro is able to Dark Pulse and knock out the Whalmer, but unfortunately I lose my first Pokemon against May. So from there, we can move on and face off against Watson next. We're gonna have to move on without P-Dove. We're gonna start the battle off against Watson using my Zoro. Zoro is actually camouflage or illusion into Trubbish, as you can see, and also I have a Cherry Berry on it, so Thunder Wave does not affect it from the Magnemite, as I'm able to Dark Pulse twice into him and knock him out, as you know, he doesn't switch out. He goes out to his Voltorb next. He's gonna Volt Switch, and this actually caused him to lose the game, as he's gonna Volt Switch into his Magneton, and I'm able to Dark Pulse twice, outspeed him, knock out his ace Pokemon, and then all that's left is his Voltorb, and he can't do too much, as a one Dark Pulse actually outspeed him too, knock him out, and we're able to beat down Watson. So from there, we got another Pokemon. Since we beat this gym, we can move out into this ashy area. Forgot what route it is. I could see the route, but it's kind of blurry on my screen, on my portion of the commentary. We're gonna start our hunting out, and really quickly, we already got an encounter. Our encounter for this route will be a Bouffalant, which is surprising. Bouffalant, I didn't even realize. I didn't recognize Bouffalant was actually a Pokemon you can encounter in here. So I decided to chain up a Bouffalant. Bouffalant, very scary Pokemon, especially in the early game, which we're at. Bouffalant is a fully evolved Pokemon. You know, it doesn't evolve at all. So it has some really good stats to begin off. So eventually, when we find ourselves a shiny Bouffalant, it's going to be pretty difficult to catch, and also be difficult to actually do damage too. As you see, I'm using my Zoro, I'm using my Trubbish, and you know, it's getting too close. You might call this cheating, but I call this resourceful, because I need to catch this Bouffalant. It got really scary catching this thing. From there, Bouffalant does not mess around, as he beats down Maxie for us. It does not mess around. From there, we can move on and face off against the next gym leader in the game. We're going to face off against Flannery next. Flannery is the fire type gym leader in the game. We're going to start the battle off against her using, you know, Bouffalant. Forgot to get a soft sand, but I got the new team on it called Bodos. Bodos is able to one-shot the Slugma in his face. Her next Pokemon will be a Torkoal. This Torkoal does survive a lot of damage, as you can see. It survived a lot of Bodoses, and it's going to curse up. Now it's going to do less damage to it, as Torkoal's physical defense went up. It's going to overheat me in the sun, and Bouffalant just tanks it. Only took like 55 damage, and I'm like, oh, okay, Bouffalant's like that. Bouffalant's able to eventually knock out the Torkoal as it sets up Sun once again, and wow, just knocks him out completely. From there, she sends out her Nummo, and it gets destroyed as well. So we're able to beat down Flannery, and yeah, so we could go out and catch our next Pokemon. But Bouffalant might be the scariest thing alive. We went out into the desert. We're looking for encounters. Could not find an encounter for my life. So I had to skip on the encounter. I really wanted a Gibble in here, but couldn't find an encounter. So I decided to go back all the way past Rustboro City into this grass area. Unfortunately, there's some good Pokemon in here. Unfortunately, we got ourselves a Wingo, so we have to chain up our Wingo. So it's not the most exciting thing, but eventually we find ourselves a shiny Wingo in this grass area, and we're going to capture it, add it to our team. We use Pelipper so much that's not exciting to use a Pelipper. But we find ourselves a Wingo, add it to our team, and then evolve our Zoro into a Zoroark. So it's actually pretty cool. From there, we're going to move out and face off against Norman. Norman's going to be the Norm type gym leader in the game. We're going to start the battle off against him using my Trubbish. It is not Trubbish. It is my Zoroark. Zoroark's able to Dark Pulse, do a lot of damage, and then I'm going to switch out into my actual Trubbish to set up Toxic Spikes. Now, the reason for this is just add some pressure as I'm able to go out into my Zoroark. Zoroark's able to Dark Post once again, knock out the Slack King, and from there he's gonna switch out into his Vigoroth, which I'm able to Dark Post. He's gonna Encore me, which is actually such a huge play for him because he could send out his Slack King and retaliate me and could do a lot of damage. So I decided to switch out into my Trubbish. If he goes for a retaliate, Trubbish is gone, but luckily he didn't. He went for a Swagger. As I go out to my Pelipper next, Pelipper is able to just protect, chip away at him. Eventually I am able to knock out the Slack King. It just takes a little bit because, Pelipper doesn't do a lot of damage. Slack King has too much HP, and it goes back and forth. Eventually, I'm able to knock out the Slack King and get my 5th gym badge in the game. Also learn Head Charge on my Buffalon. Wow, that thing's going to be very powerful. From there, we're going to move out into the grass area over here, get some citrus berries, and then move out and face off against Winona. Winona's going to be the 6th gym leader in the game. We did not catch a Pokemon, so we do have an extra Pokemon if we beat this gym as well. We're going to start the battle off against Winona using my Buffalon against her Swellow. You know what the move we just got? Oh, wait, we didn't use it. I'm lying. Rock Tomb to knock out the Swellow in one shot with a crit. Her next Pokemon will be an Altaria, which I decided to go for a Head Charge. Does a lot of damage. I don't think that's Self Scarf boosted either, so I'm able to do a lot of damage to her, about 95%. I go for a Rock Tomb against her and then go for a Head Charge. No, 2 Rock Tombs will knock out the Altaria. As she's gonna send out her Skarmory next. Obviously, this is a defensive wall, so I went out into my Pelipper and I got tricked by it. I went out to my Zoroark. Zoroark's able to go for Dark Poses against the Skarmory to knock him out, and then her final Pokemon will be a Pelipper, which I stayed in, surprisingly enough, and then 2 Dark Poses would knock out the Pelipper as we're able to beat down Winona and get our 6th gym badge. Pretty easy. From there, we're gonna actually move out into near Lilycove City in this route, and this is the hardest and most annoying chain to do. We found ourselves an Aipom as our first encounter. However, it took so long to even find an Aipom, to find a shiny one. It's so difficult and so annoying. I don't know why this one was so annoying, but it just got to the point where I didn't want a shiny hunt for Aipom anymore because it just never worked out. It was so hard to chain Aipoms, and eventually when I do, this area to actually chain kept spawning them right next. I was unable to really chain Aipoms, and it gave me a lot of headaches. Eventually, we found ourselves a shiny Aipom, and very luckily, we got Skill Link as an ability, and I love using Aipom as a Pokemon. It's one of my favorite Pokemon to use, just because it's so fun. It's just powerful. Unfortunately, we don't get the right ability. I want Technician, so I can use Fake Out and then use Fairy Swipes, and it'll be very good. But we got Skill Link, so I can't use Double Hit, but I can still use Skill Link and try to work around it. Eventually, you can see how I work around it. But we catch ourselves a shiny Aipom. It has Bounce as a move too, so it'll be pretty useful. From there, once we catch Aipom, we can go out into the Magma Hideout. You can see how much I love Aipom. It's gonna be one of my main Pokemon I use. From there, we go out to the Magma Hideout, and then we're gonna clear through them pretty easily. Invade the Magma Hideout, and then just destroy Courtney as well, and then face off against a quote-unquote gym fight. We're gonna face off against Tantalizer next. Tantalizer is the Psychic Gym leaders in the game. We're gonna start the battle off against them, using my Buffalon and also my Zoroark. Don't get confused, this is not a Pelipper. I'm able to Dark Post, one-shot the Zoroark, and then Mega Horn with my Buffalon and knock out the Lunatone, and the battle is over. So we end up getting our 7th gym badge in the game very easily, and then we move out into an actual boss fight. We move out and face off against Maxie next. Maxie's the Magma leader, and we're gonna start the battle off against him using my Buffalon. Buffalon's able to go for Mega Horn against his Mightyena and one-shot him. However, he goes out to his Weezing next. Weezing is gonna Sludge Bomb into my Pelipper and poisons it. I accidentally misclicked Fly here because thinking I had Surf in that slot because I did have it at one point. And then from there, it's going to self-destruct as I got a very lucky. If I went for Surf, my Pelipper would have been gone. And because luckily I misclicked for Fly, I'm able to avoid both the Crobat hit and also the Weezing explosion. So I'm able to switch out, save my Pelipper, thankfully, and I can go out to my Zoroark to eventually knock out the Crobat, and then his final Pokemon will be a Camera Up, which isn't going to do a lot of damage to me. I go out to my Ambipom. Ambipom's able to do a bit of damage to him, miss a Fairy Swipes, and then miss another one and fell asleep, so that's not great. I go out to my Buffalon next, save it to survive a Rock Slide, and then Bodos to knock him out as we're able to beat down Maxie. Very lucky fight. From there, we're going to face off against, I almost said Omega Groudon. Primal Groudon is going to be the next boss fight we're going to face off against. We're going to start the battle off against him using my Buffalon. Because I have Earthquake, I assume it's going to do a little more than that. So I'm going to switch out. I decided to switch out to my Zoroark, hoping he doesn't go for a Precipice Blades. He went for Rest, and yeah, it works out. So that should be the end of the battle, as I'm able to go for a Calm Mind. Now I can survive a Lava Plume and everything else. Night Daze does over half to him, and then the second one will knock him out as we're able to beat down Primal Groudon. But yeah, Buffalon strategy did not work too well. From there, we're going to face off against Wallace next. Wallace is the 8th gym leader in the game. We're going to start the battle off against him as the water gym leader. We're going to start the battle off against him using my Zoroark. Zoroark's able to go for a Calm Mind and a Dark Pulse into the Love Disc to knock him out. His next Pokemon is going to be a Milotic, which I'm able to Dark Pulse. He's going to Hydro Pump me, do a lot of damage. I'm able to go for a Night Daze and knock out the Milotic pretty easily. His next Pokemon is going to be a Whiscash, which Night Daze does not kill. And then Earthquake does do a lot of damage, which I don't like. So I'm gonna be forced to switch out my Zoroark. From the looks of things, when I didn't one-shot the Whiscash, I was not too certain about my Zoroark as the Celio came out next. I probably could have one-shot it. I didn't want to risk it. I went out to my all-reliable Buffalon. Buffalon's able to go for an Earthquake. 2 Earthquakes would knock out the Celio, and then his final Pokemon will be a Sinking, which I'm able to go for an Earthquake and then a second one. So we're able to beat down Wallace pretty easily, get our 8th gym badge in the game, and then from there we can go shiny hunting. I didn't know what to get because all the routes were useless. None of them had great encounters. So I decided to go on this one and find myself a Skorupi. Skorupi is going to be the final member on my team. We're going to chain it real quick and then get ourselves a shiny Skorupi added to our team as our final member. And unfortunately, you can see why this thing has such a terrible fate later on. From there, we're going to move out into Victory Road and then clear through Victory Road easily as Buffalon destroys Wally's team completely. So we're able to just beat down Wally and then move out into the Pokemon League. And we're able to get a bunch of items for ourselves, but we're going to probably need it to heal in between battles as we face off against the Elite Four next. The Elite Four is going to be a gauntlet of battles as we're going to go through 5 different members. Our first member we're going to face off against is going to be Sydney. Sydney is the Dark type Elite Four member of the game. He's going to start the battle off against us using a Mighty Anna. We're going to start the battle off against him using my Buffalon, which I kind of, I fell in love with. I love this Buffalon. Buffalon, unfortunately, Mega Horns, unfortunately, cannot kill the Mighty Anna and get Swagger. So I have to go out into my Aipom, which doesn't have the Silph Scarf on, but it does 1-shot or 5 hits and knock out the Mighty Anna. His next Pokemon will be a Shift-Trait, which I go for Fury Swipes. Still does not kill. He's going to go for multiple Leaf Blades against my Aipom, which is unfortunate as I'm able to eventually knock out this. As I'm able to eventually knock out the Shift-Trait. His next Pokemon will be a Sharpedo, which very bad situation for me. I go out into my Buffalon. Buffalon's able to go for a Mega Horn. I needed to risk it. Fence drop down as well, so it's not a great look for me. Sharpedo goes down though. His next Pokemon will be an Absol, which I just went for a risk. If I miss Mega Horn, it's not a big deal. Mega Horn to knock out the Absol. I just didn't want this thing to get set up, or it would have do a lot of damage to me. I'm able to knock out the Absol, and then his final Pokemon will be a Cacturn, which I could go out into my Garbodor, which I completely forgot was on my team. So Garbodor is able to Sludge Bomb and knock out the Cacturn for us as we're able to beat down Sydney in a very close fight. It's probably one of the closer fights into the end. From there, we're going to add the Black Glasses and also the Silph Scarf onto our Pokemon, Aipom, and also Dark Glasses onto my Zoroark. From there, we're going to face off against Phoebe next. Phoebe is the Ghost type Elite Four member of the game. We're going to start the battle off against her using my Zoroark, and I don't want to set up right here, most likely because obviously it can curse me, so I went for a Dark Pulse to knock out the Dusclops, and then she can send out her Sableye next. It's going to fake me out, and in reveal, I'm a Zoroark, and now her team is dead. So I'm able to Night Daze, knock out the Sableye. She switched out into her Dusknoir. Wow, I learned Gunk Shot. It was actually really cool. More of a physical attacker on Garbodor. She's down to her Dusknoir, which I'm able to one-shot as well, and that should be the end of the battle, as I'm able to Dark Pulse twice into her Bayonets, and we're able to beat down Phoebe and complete the second battle in the Elite Four. Next up, we move on and face off against Glacia next. Glacia is going to be the Ice-type Elite Four member of the game. We're going to start the battle off against her using my Aipom. Now, Aipom finally gets a win. Aipom is able to go for Power Punches against the Glalie. 2 Power Punches with a crit will knock out the Glalie, as you see, and then her next Pokemon will be a Frostlass, and you'll be like, how am I supposed to beat the Frostlass since I only have fighting and normal type moves? The egg move that it came with, Bounce, actually came in handy, as I'm able to bounce and knock out the Frostlass in one turn with a +2 bounce. And then her next Frostlass, I'm able to bounce. I actually missed it because of Snow Cloak, and then I gotta reset again, so it's kind of annoying. But eventually, I am able to knock out the second Frostlass with a bounce, as her Frostlass goes down, and then her next Pokemon will be a Walrein, which I go out and decide to use Fury Swipes, a +2 Fury Swipes with Skill Link and a Silph Scarf. Actually one-shots a Walrein, as you can see, so much damage. And then our final Pokemon will be a Glalie, which I'm able to go for Fury Swipes. Again, Skill Link, 5 hit, we're able to knock out the Glalie, and we're able to beat down Glacia. Third Elite Four member down. we're going to move out and face off against Drake next. Drake is going to be the Dragon type Elite Four member. We're going to start the battle off against him using my Pelipper. Pelipper finally has something to do as he's able to Ice Beam into the Altaria. Unfortunately, Pelipper is very weak and it's unfortunately not able to one-shot it, even though it's a 4 times weak move. And eventually I am able to knock out the Altaria, but at the risk of my Pelipper as it's at 39 HP. So I decided to switch out my Pelipper into my Garbodor. Garbodor is more of a tank. It's able to survive a Thunder Fang and then go out for a Body Slam. Does not get a Paralyzed, so does not work out great for me as I'm able to switch out into my Zoroark next. Zoroark's able to dodge Zen Headbutt because it's Dark type and then go for a Dark Pulse, which knocks out the Salamence somehow. And then from there, he's going to switch out into his Flygon next. His Flygon is a special attacker, so I went for a Calm Mind and then go for a Dark Pulse to knock out the Flygon, to knock out the second Flygon, and also Night Daze to knock out the Kingdra. Only dark moves on the Zoroark and somehow is working out really well. From there, we're going to face off against Steven Stone next. Steven Stone is going to be the champion of Hoenn, and we're going to start the battle off against him with my Zoroark. I chose Zoroark because I want to use Illusion to try to trick the AI that my Garbodor is out so it doesn't go for Toxic, and it works out great as I'm able to Nasty Plot. It goes for Spikes. It goes for Spikes twice as I'm able to go for Dark Pulse, and it doesn't ever Toxic me as I'm able to just waste all its full restores as well. Dark Pulse to knock out the Skarmory, and then his next Pokemon will be an Amaldo, which I go for a Night Daze and knock out the Amaldo. His next Pokemon will be an Aggron, which I go for a Dark Pulse. Flinch him as well, the first flinch in the longest time ever of Dark Pulse, as I'm able to 2-shot into the Aggron to knock him out. His next Pokemon will be a Claydol, which unfortunately goes for a Light Screen, and then I go for Nasty Plots. Unfortunately, it goes for Earth Power and kind of scared me, so I decided to go for a Dark Pulse to knock out the Claydol. And then his next Pokemon will be a Cradily, which I go for a Night Daze. Does not knock him out because of the Light Screen, which is crazy to see. He ends up confusing me, and I was like, you know what, I could survive this. I could go for Calm Minds. Fortunately, I cannot survive this, as you can see. So I decided to actually switch out my Zoroark because I didn't want to lose him. I went out to my Pelipper to Ice Beam and knock out the Cradily, and then he's going to go into his Mega Metagross. He's going to Giga Impact. It doesn't knock out my Pelipper. I get a Scald Off, 2 Scald Offs. Doesn't get a single burn. I'm like, of course, Pelipper always want to let me down. I went out to my Drapion, and unfortunately a Bullet Punch into a Giga Impact with some Spikes damage will be enough to knock out my Drapion, and that's the only showing of my Drapion. So sad to see. I went out to my Zoroark next. I know he has to recharge this turn, so I go out to my Zoroark. Luckily enough, I survived the Spikes damage, Night Daze to knock him out, and we ended up beating Steven Stone. Unfortunately, we have 2 deaths on the death counter. 1 because I poorly planned P-Dove, 2 because Drapion just unlucky. Ironically, because I let the Skarmory set up Spikes, the Spikes came back and haunt me later on. So, you know what? It's a double-edged sword. You can't win them all. We still ended up beating Pokemon Omega Ruby, one of the most difficult and most frustrating Dex Nav encounters ever. It was pretty fun to do once you get all the Dex Nav because the Pokemon itself are very fun to play with. Anyways, that'll be all my time for today. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you guys can, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. It means a lot to me. Anyways, my name's been Alpha. Hope you guys all have a great day, and I'm out. Peace.